She's a homemaker, don't you know? She'll teach you how to cook and sew, and how to wield a hammer. It's the June the Homemaker Show.
Hello, and welcome to the June the Homemaker Show. Today on June the Homemaker, backed by special request, is Mom the Homemaker.
Hi.
Today we are going to do something about meat, and as you know, I don't eat meat, but plenty of you do. Mom the Homemaker is going to be showing us how to make pot roast.
I have a lovely big pan here that I like to cook my pot roast in. And I have put 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil in it. The recipe calls for 2, but it's a large pan. And we want to preheat this pan, don't we?
Yes. Preheating is a really good idea.
It is.
What if somebody doesn't have a big giant pan that heats up on its own? Then would you use like a big giant frying pan on the stove?
Yes. Something very heavy duty on the stove. Something that you have a lid that fits tightly on. If you're going to heat this up on the stove, you probably would want to put it on medium heat. For a pot roast, I like to take a nice piece of boneless chuck roast, which happened to be on sale this weekend for $1.99 a pound.
Champion!
Woo! Ta-da!
That used to be an animal.
That's why we like to eat it. So the first thing you want to do with your boneless chuck roast is dredge it in flour. Dredge it, you say? Yes, dredge it.
Isn't that what they do to the bottoms of lakes when there's pollution in them?
Not that kind of dredging. I did not put the meat directly on the counter. There's sort of a clear sheet of wax paper here. What you want to do is coat all sides of the meat with flour. So you just kind of sprinkle it on the top.
Is that 1/3 of a cup?
It's enough. I've washed my hands already, so what I'm going to do is kind of pat the flour on top of the meat. And then I'm going to shake off the excess and then let the meat go on that. And then I'm going to sprinkle more flour on the bottom part and just kind of rub it all in. And I'm going to do the same thing on the sides.
Singing is important.
Until it's not really red anymore, it's more or less dusted with white. So at this point we say, is the oil heated up? Well,
how can we tell if the oil is heated up, Mom the Homemaker?
You can tell because the oil sort of doesn't stay in one place. It moves to the center and you can see areas of the pan that are without oil. If it gets too hot, the oil starts smoking. At that point you should unplug it and wait a while. But right now I think it's just about right.
Would the oil catch on fire?
Not if we're lucky. Let's just stab this meat, pick it up, and put it in, and hopefully you're going to hear some lovely pot roast sounds.
Crackling, maybe? Do you hear that, YouTube? Snap, crackle, pop.
While it's sitting here, let's throw some salt on it. Let's throw some pepper on it.
And you can season this however you want to, pretty much, right?
Right. It takes a while to brown it on each side, but you want to make sure it's good and brown because what you're actually doing here is you are searing the juices in. And if you make sure it's good and brown on all sides, then it's going to come out tender and juicy and wonderful for those of us who do eat meat. So this is going to take a while.
Okay, well, I guess I got time.
Good. You can have to use fast motion on this part with a little accompaniment.
Yes, and then our voices are going to be like...
I'm not going to talk that way. You can if you want.
You would if you sped up.
I wouldn't.
I just read you War and Peace just then. You weren't even listening.
Sometimes your meat will want to stick to the pan. So you want to have a lovely large fork with which to lift it up, and when you lift it up, some of the oil will just sort of naturally float. See how it's floating?
It is kind of floating.
Back in there?
Uh-huh.
Then you just easily take the fork out.
That's how I know you've never murdered anyone with a roasting fork. Because you can't smoothly put it in and out.
Excellent. I've fooled her again. Okay, now we're flipping this meat. And we're going to start browning the sides. And this takes dexterity and skill.
Mom the Homemaker could definitely be on Cirque du Soleil because she can do a pot roast.
You need your fork and you need something to balance it with. You can actually put it up against the side of the pan for balance. All right, now we're going to put it on its little end. This is going to be tough too. Once this piece of meat is completely browned, we're going to have to add about 3/4 of a cup to a cup of very, very hot water.
Why does it have to be very, very hot, Mom the Homemaker?
If you add cold water to a hot pan, you're going to completely slow the cooking process, and that would have a tendency to make the meat tough instead of tender. The other thing you could do if you didn't have hot water is you could take the meat completely out of the pan, add the water until it's hot, and then put the meat back in, which is what some recipes call for.
Okay, here comes the hot water.
Stand back, please. This is going to sizzle.
I feel like whenever you warn me about things, it's never quite as bad.
You basically want to lift up the piece of meat so the water goes underneath.
Okay.
That way it's not going to stick. And also I have a lovely little metal spatula here. And right now I'm going to just sort of scrape up the parts that already stuck. We're going to put on the giant lid.
Of death and doom and destruction!
Actually, it's just the lid of the pan.
Oh.
We're going to cover her up. We're going to turn it down to simmer. We want it to still kind of boil. Bubbling over, bubbling over. This has got to cook for 2.5 hours.
How do you know how long it's supposed to cook for?
The recipe tells me 2.5 hours.
So, but it doesn't matter how big the piece of meat is, or does the recipe specify the size of the piece of meat?
I think the recipe specifies a 4 to 6 pound piece of meat. The longer you cook it, the more tender it will be. Now, in that 2.5 hours, I'm going to come back and check it every, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, just to make sure it's not sticking to the bottom of the pan.
Do you flip it?
No, you don't have to flip it, but just lift it up, make sure there's water under it. And if for some reason the lid is not tight enough and the water is steaming away, you're going to want to add more water, but it has to be hot water.
Okay, well, I guess we'll be back. Well, the pot roast has been cooking for this whole time.
And now it's time to add whatever vegetables you like. I like to have potatoes and carrots and onions, and I found in the refrigerator a bunch of lovely mushrooms. 6 or 7 medium potatoes, cut in quarters. I only had 1 onion, and I had a nice bag of baby carrots. We're going to need to add a little more hot water so that the vegetables have something to cook in. Now wait. That's going to be hot. Use the elbow glove. Lift it up and point it away from you so the steam goes that way and doesn't come this way and burn you. And let it drip down into the pan. There we go. All right, I'm going to add the hot water. What you want to do is add the vegetables first that are going to be taking the longest to cook. Carrots. Put the potatoes on top of the carrots, I think. And then I think we'll put this onion. I chunked it. I didn't cut it in very fine pieces. It's mostly for flavoring. The wonderful mushrooms on top.
This looks very English. Is this an English thing?
I believe so. They're good.
So there's that. And now we're going to put this
back on.
You're
going to make sure it's boiling again. So I turned it up just a little bit.
Okay.
It helps if you have a pan with a clear lid like this.
Yeah, because then you can see everything.
We'll let that cook for another probably half an hour.
Okay, and then we'll come back and check it out when it's done. We're back, and it's done. It's bubbling like crazy. Look at that.
I'm going to turn it off, move it around so I make sure it's not sticking to the bottom. Yes, that is truly, truly wonderful.
This is June the Homemaker. We're here with Mom the Homemaker. And now we all know how to make a pot roast. Don't forget to subscribe for more lessons and follow me on Twitter and friend me on Facebook. And check out my second channel, June the Homemaker 2, for outtakes and extras. Things that you might perhaps not have seen in this episode because it was just too much. Sometimes it's just too much. Fun!